One of the biggest bummers of COVID-era gaming is delay after delay after delay. And I'm sure there are some games supposed to release this fall that will still get delayed. But one of the coolest elements, on the other hand, is games that get announced and boom, their release date is happening soon. Now, we knew about Immortals Fenyx Rising, formerly called Gods and Monsters, but we didn't know that it was coming this year on December 3rd. And I had a chance to play a couple hours of this game, and it's actually really freaking good. What's going on, everybody? It's Ghost Robo. Today I want to talk to you about kind of two elements of Immortals Fenyx Rising. One, what it was like to play an unreleased game in pandemic-era America, and then two, if this game is worth your time come December. As I mentioned, a lot of stuff getting delayed, and I think that Immortals Fenyx Rising is going to slide in nicely as a surprise title towards the very tail end of this basically terrible year. Ubisoft has three big games releasing right in a row: Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Watch Dogs Legion, and then Immortals Rise of Fenyx Rising. Rise of Fenyx, Gods and Monsters. Monsters and Phoenixes. Phoenixes and Gods. I wish they would have kept the original name. But make sure to smash that like button if you're excited for new games coming this holiday season. And let me know which game you're most excited for. But let me tell you about Immortals, Gods and Monsters. Big thanks to Ubisoft for inviting me to the event, which was different. If you followed this channel over the last decade, you know that I often get invited to events where they fly me out and I get to go play the game. Usually it's in a hotel, or it's in a banquet hall, or it's in some sort of rented out space, maybe even the studio itself. And there's, 10 to 20 demo stations. They bring in a bunch of YouTubers and press. They pair us up with someone from the dev team that kind of walks us through the demo. They give us a presentation, and, they run the trailer, and they kind of PowerPoint their way through what you're going to be seeing and, what the vision for the game is. If it's a big reveal, maybe there's a little more fanfare. There's often some food. You play the game for a couple hours. Usually they let you record it. They take you out to dinner sometimes. Sometimes they just have snacks. You sometimes stay at a hotel. Sometimes you just fly straight home. But it's a pretty cool process, and honestly, one of my favorite things about YouTube is all the experiences I've got to have with different developers, different publishers, and the places I've traveled. So this was my first non-travel event. Basically, we set up a Discord where we got to talk to the presenters. They went over what we're going to be seeing in the game, kind of ran through the trailer, just like we would in person, but alas, over a headset. And then I got to play the game. Basically, it was streamed from their PCs at the studio, I believe, and I got to play it. And it surprisingly worked insanely well. Like, I knew it was going to work pretty well. There's no way that they would chance their game performing terribly if they weren't confident in this method, but it worked basically flawlessly. For me, someone who isn't like super picky about visuals, isn't super picky about input latency, it felt like I was playing the game as if I was actually at the event. But what was the game like? Man, Immortals Fenyx Rising is Zelda Breath of the Wild. They played Breath of the Wild in 2017 and said, we could do one of these. We can make this game. And 3 years later, here we go. It's Ubisoft presents Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild 1.5, because it's better in some ways. Now, I covered this game specifically in relation to how it will affect the Switch over on my Switch Force channel if you want to check that out. But this game will still be worthwhile, fun, and a big surprise on PlayStation and on Xbox. I think it's that good. It is Breath of the Wild, though. The two areas where it stands above Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild for me, and they're instantly apparent, are one, the humor. I think it's very charming, and it kind of reminds me of Disney's Hercules in that way, because it does have the Greek mythology angle, and the characters are kind of, making jokes, but they're not crude jokes. They're more just like borderline corny jokes, kind of like dad jokes, but in a charming way. And then the fluidity of the combat and the traversal is very sound. It's so good to play. It feels great in your hands. And in fact, that's a lot of what Nintendo does so well, is that hands on the controller gameplay experience, making sure they nail the moment-to-moment mechanics. And I think that Immortals does that incredibly well. The rest of the stuff feels like copy and paste, right? You've got these vaults or these underground areas that are puzzle rooms that are direct copies of shrines. I mean, you're literally moving giant boulders with like ethereal beam telekinesis, and that's just like Breath of the Wild. I mean, the sky turns red when the main bad guy gets angry, and the enemies get tougher, and there's particle effects that look just like in Breath of the Wild. You got this big world, you summon your horse, you got a stamina meter as you climb and swim. I mean, it is Breath of the Wild through and through, and I think some people are going to be offended how much like Breath of the Wild it is, but as Nintendo fans eagerly anticipate Breath of the Wild 2, and as PlayStation, Xbox, and PC fans never got to play Breath of the Wild, this is a fantastic chance to get in on a really great game foundation. Now, it does fall short in some ways. I mean, it's very Ubisoft in terms of the menus and the UI, and I wish they would differentiate there. It feels like they just utilize the same basic framework for every game. I mean, if you play Assassin's Creed, if you play Watch Dogs, if you play Ghost Recon, if you play Division, if you play Immortals, you're like, I've seen these menus before. And I'm really hoping that all of the executive level changes that they've made at Ubisoft will allow for a bold new era of Ubisoft games in the next couple of years. Not going to happen right now, and Immortals obviously is part of the past. And now it's coming out, so of course it's going to bear a lot of resemblance to what we know from Ubisoft, but I do hope they're able to kind of buck the trend, split the fork, and do something different. For now, though, you have a game where you collect a lot of swords, a lot of helmets, they got stats, you put them on your character, the menus, the map, it all looks very similar. There's a bunch to do. It is Ubisoft. The character, I don't think looks very good. The game itself, I think, looks really pretty, and the environments are very vibrant. There's a lot of cool-looking enemies, and I love what they've done with the world. There's a lot of lushness, and I hope the different areas, I got to play in one major area for about 2 hours. There's supposedly 7 major areas, and I hope that they all are very visually and maybe even gameplay. There's these overworld puzzles that you have to solve, like, you know, first person flying an arrow through all these specific hoops, or maybe moving different boxes with laser mazes, things of that sort. And there's epic chests, there's all sorts of gear. Thankfully, you can choose to either wear the gear and see it visually as well as statistically, or just have it affect your baseline stats and keep your character kosher with their original gear. There's also a bunch of upgrades, which is very Ubisoft. You're collecting points and then putting them into upgrade trees. There's all sorts of different currencies that allow you to upgrade different sorts of things. There's crafting of potions, and boy oh boy, when you craft the potions in the big pot, it sure feels like cooking in Breath of the Wild. I mean, the whole game is very, very reminiscent of Zelda, and maybe more than reminiscent, it is a copy of Zelda with a different cast and with a different theme and with better combat. It's not all the way God of War, but it does feel fluid in that way. You've got a light slash, a heavy slash, and then the 4 power attacks. This is very similar also to Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and I'm assuming Assassin's Creed Valhalla, in the way that you had face button special attacks could be activated and take some of your meter, and that's what they do here. You've got a stamina meter that'll be used for dodging, as I mentioned, climbing and swimming, but also these special combat moves. Now, I think you can modify these combat moves as you upgrade them. We didn't have access to the upgrade trees in the demo, but I don't believe there are more special attacks to unlock. Rather, you are modifying and improving the ones you already have. If I had a complaint, I wish that there were a bunch of different special attacks a la God of War, so you can unlock more combos and sort of customize your melee and magic experience to fit your style. But it still has a great flow. The attacks they've picked are very fun. You've got a giant hammer from the sky, arrows and spears that shoot from the ground. It's got a nice air-to-ground combat system, and it works because there are flying enemies, there are ground enemies, there are ones that jump, and you can throw just about anybody into the sky, even the big Cerberus enemies. You can, I think, even throw the giant Cyclops, and I'm hoping that the boss battles are actually really epic. There are bosses kind of just roaming around that are tied to side quests, and those were fun to fight, but a lot of that is just getting in and hacking and slashing. I hope there are some massive bosses that are tied to the story and the progression of the game that offer different patterns or maybe require a different train of thought as you take them on. And I hope overall the story has some linearity. It is an open world game. There are many places to go. But I hope for some cool indoor areas. I hope for some dungeon type experiences, because that's one way that could really rise above Breath of the Wild 1 and maybe set the tone for what we expect out of Breath of the Wild 2. As you know, Breath of the Wild 1 had these roaming pseudo dungeons that were more like big puzzle rooms than they were true dungeons. And I think that's something that fans really want out of Breath of the Wild 2. The same giant open world, the flexibility, the fun that came with exploration, but also some of the tried and true designed rooms and levels, where Zelda can give you a dungeon and you go, oh, the Ice Temple was incredible. It didn't look like Immortals has that. It seems to be much more of a, hey, you're going to be existing on the overworld and occasionally dipping down into these vaults, which are basically shrines to collect your currency, to upgrade your character. But I am curious to see if there are more bespoke areas that are tied to main quests. Because the game is just so fun, like running, you can fly, so running and jumping off a cliff, flying, landing on the ground, going into a sprint, summoning your horse out of thin air, jumping on the horse, jumping off the horse, transitioning into the fluid, fast-paced combat. It all feels great. I got to play on PC. It ran perfectly well. I'm a little concerned about the Switch performance, given how much is going on in the game and how vast the open world is, but I know it'll run great on PS4 and Xbox One, so there's no worries there. And compared to what else is coming out on Xbox One and PS4 this fall, not much like this. We got some big titles like Cyberpunk, which is nothing like this. And then, of course, you've got Assassin's Creed and Watch Dogs, which are a little bit like this. But this does kind of fit in its own slot, and I think it will succeed because of that. I worry that it's not tied to a major franchise or IP. The name is a bit cumbersome. Immortals Fenyx Rising, and Phoenix is spelled with an F instead of a PH. I don't think they did any favors in terms of marketing, but who knows? Maybe they can tie in some Assassin's Creed gear, some Watch Dogs gear, and kind of get this thing going. Because I think it deserves your attention. I think it deserves your time. It's going to be great on Switch. I called it one of potentially the best third-party titles to release this year on Nintendo Switch. And I don't think it'll be one of the best third-party titles to release on the other platforms, but I think it'll be a strong game. I could easily see Immortals getting mid to high 8s. I think it's that good. It just needs the variety to carry over across the entire campaign and not start to feel bogged down in boredom. With the character upgrades, the different areas, with the hopefully multitude of puzzles and hopefully multitude of enemies. I did see quite a bit of enemy repetition, but I'm hoping that each area of the game, the 7 major areas, do divide the monsters that you fight a little bit. This could be one of the coolest games to get this Christmas season. And releasing in December, it's not going to have much competition. It could come out and be a fun way to spend the end of the year. You'll probably be done with Miles Morales by that time. Xbox has nothing new. Cyberpunk will definitely still be eating your time if that's a game you're interested in. But then, hey, I mean, Nintendo is done November 20th, it seems like. And nothing else, like I said, like Immortals. And if you're excited for Breath of the Wild 2, or enjoyed that game before, or really wanted to try that game out, here's your chance. So I really, really am looking forward to Immortals Fenyx Rising. I hope that it beats out repetition with variety, and I hope that the fun, fast-paced combat with the upgrades is able to carry your character throughout the adventure. Hopefully some interesting levels to aid that quest. Let me know what you think in the comments down below, everybody. Hit that like button if you're excited for Immortals. Thanks so much for watching, and again, thanks to Ubisoft for inviting me to their virtual event. Until next time, everybody, have a fantastic day. Drink some hot chocolate. I love you a lot. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay smart out there. Until next time, we'll see you all later.